It's the year 2004. Mark Zuckerberg has just launched the Facebook, which will later be renamed to Facebook. Shrek 2 is in cinemas, and one of the most historic MMOs in MMO history is about to be released. Believe it or not, there is a more significant MMO RPG than WoW in 2004. We're talking about City of Heroes, the first ever superhero MMO RPG. It was developed by Cryptic Studios and published by none other than NCSoft, who are kind of well known in the MMO space for various reasons. At the time of its release, its main competitors were EverQuest, Star Wars Galaxies, and of course, RuneScape. This tab targeting MMORPG stood out for many a reason. For one, it has one of the most in-depth character customization screens you'll ever come across.
And I gotta tell you, it was perfect.
You can literally do anything and everything with your character. City of Heroes released 24 free expansions. This included new zones, new raids, and even new character customizations, which is super refreshing considering how over-monetized MMORPGs tend to be. But most importantly, it had a very strong community. Players were actively encouraged to help each other out and were rewarded for doing so. Sadly though, as popular as it was, and as successful as it seemed to be, just like some of its predecessors, it would meet an untimely demise. 8 years after releasing, the servers were being shut down. NCSoft basically pulled the plug on this once great MMO. And you might be left there wondering, what caused the downfall of this MMO? What one catastrophic event closed down the servers? For one, it didn't help when Marvel Studios decided to sue NCSoft. Marvel were unhappy with some copyright issues. One of the main gripes was being that players were naming their characters after Marvel superheroes and copying their likeness. But what makes this case even more ludicrous is that the characters that they were referencing were actually created by Marvel staff. Either way, the case was thrown out, and I'm sure it was only a coincidence that Marvel were planning to make their own MMO, and it was nothing to do with that. By all means, this was great news. It meant they avoided being shut down, but as you can imagine, it was quite the headache for NCSoft. Another headache that they'll also have, the game was simply not liked by the Eastern market. There was an attempt to release a Korean version of City of Heroes, but it just wasn't popular and it was pulled before it could ever go live. Which wouldn't be an issue if NCSoft wasn't a Korean company. I'm sure that one had to hurt just a little bit. It's the equivalent of being English and being bad at football. And finally, the biggest reason that the plug was pulled was simply this. It wasn't making enough profit. It was profitable, but just not enough for NCSoft's liking. I guess superheroes were just not marketable enough. People were just not interested in anything superhero related. Paragon Studios, who took over support from Cryptic Studios, did try to stop them from shutting down the servers, but NCSoft were just not having it, and alas, the plug was pulled. City of Heroes was dead. And this is where the story gets a little bit more positive and a little more batshit crazy. Officially, City of Heroes was dead. It was no longer running and you couldn't play it. However, there were rumors, there were whispers about a secret server.
We've been told a lot of things. Me personally, I've been told that NCSoft, they erased the servers to put Guild Wars 2 on them. We've been told that they just trashed the servers, they threw them away. We've been told that this can't be reverse engineered or this is too complicated for this to happen. When this entire time, there's been a private server up and running that is for exclusive people only. I'm talking you have to know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody.
As crazy as it sounds, there was indeed a secret server. The source code for City of Heroes was leaked to a fellow member of the community, and this was done right before the game shut down. Now it goes without saying that running your own private server isn't exactly legal because NCSoft still owned the intellectual property for City of Heroes. But essentially, for 6 years, there was a secret server which had very exclusive access, and anyone who played on it were just not allowed to talk about it. Understandably, there was mixed emotions about the revealing of the secret server, and this happened back in 2019, 6 years after the initial closure of the game. Some players were overjoyed that they could still carry on playing their favourite MMO, whilst others felt like there was a bit of gatekeeping going on. Why was the server exclusive? Why couldn't they get on it? But most importantly, why did they not pass on the source code? In an interview with Massively Overpowered, Leandro Pardini came forward to address some of the accusations that have been thrown at him and just talk about the general issues that they've been having with the private server. He went on to talk about how a previous IP owned by NCSoft got closed down, and when the fans tried to reopen it, they got hit with a cease and desist. And he didn't want the same fate for City of Heroes. Instead, he wanted to work on the servers in secret, whilst trying to acquire the IP for City of Heroes. Shortly after the announcement of the private servers, the actual source code was also released to the public, which meant other people could now go ahead and create their own server. And that's exactly what they went and did. But more surprisingly, NCSoft decided to take no action against these servers that were popping up. The Homecoming server always stated that they were trying to work out some sort of deal with NCSoft. And as of January 4th, 2024, this was now a reality. The Homecoming server was now officially licensed by NCSoft. So the obvious question is, what does a license mean for the Homecoming server? Well, let's break it down. The license allows the Homecoming server to actually go ahead and further develop the game with some limitations. However, the intellectual property still remains with NCSoft. As it stands, the Homecoming server is still free to play on. They do have donation goals, which will increase in cost due to the fact that there's going to be a bigger overhead and potentially some legal fees that they have to pay. As I said earlier, NCSoft still own the intellectual property for this game, so if they really wanted to, they could close it down. However, the fact that they are agreeing to a license means it's probably less likely to happen. I think fundamentally what it came down to was that NCSoft didn't have the power to go ahead and close all these different servers. It would be such a ball ache to try and find the owners and then issue them cease and desists. I mean, who knows where some of these are actually hosted? They could be in countries out of their jurisdiction. I also feel that even if they didn't grant them the license, the server would carry on anyway and probably without any issues. One thing I have to say though is that the Homecoming server is very well organised. It's very easy to set up an account and get started. What even is that? That's blatantly like some 40-year-old dude in his basement. That is hilarious. As someone who never played the game originally and then actually got to enjoy it for the first time in their life, I had to say it was actually a fun experience. The community was more than welcoming, it was easy enough to set up, and the most important thing as well, I actually had fun. One thing City of Heroes really does bring to light is the fact that this could happen to any MMO, even ones that are profitable. I also feel that this would never happen with a modern day MMO, as much as the community might rally together to actually have this much commitment to set up private servers, funding them for 6 years whilst also potentially putting yourself in legal issues. With the original coding, I just don't see it happening. And on that bombshell, I'm going to end the video there. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinion on this style of video. It's not something that I usually do, but I was just so engrossed in the story about City of Heroes and just how it got shut down and how it came back to life. I'd also like to preemptively apologise in advance if I got any facts wrong. I did try my best to do as much research as possible, but you have to understand, the internet, as old as it is, isn't always the most reliable. As always though, if you want to see more of this sort of content, leave a like, subscribe, and maybe even suggest another game that I can look into. I'll leave a couple of videos on the screen for you now which you might enjoy, and a big thank you to my YouTube and Patreon members. You guys are honestly the best. Bye bye for now.